Hey guys, how's it going? David here, and I want to start today's video with a bit of a riddle. What breathes through its mouth and eats through its nose? Give up? A guy in a coma. And this is why I'm not a comedian. Okay, but seriously, when you're in a coma, especially for any extended period of time, the doctor's doing that to help keep you alive. In my case, they had to do all kinds of stuff to my body and put me in weird positions, and it was just better that I don't remember a lot of it. But some of the stuff that they'll do, obviously, they will hook you up to an IV so that you stay hydrated, and they will typically shove a tube in your mouth, down your throat, and into your lungs. At least in my case, to keep you breathing. The other thing that they will often do, especially if you're going to be in a very extended coma, like I said in one of my last videos, my first coma last year was 3.5 weeks. So the way they make sure that you get your nutrients, part of that may come through the IV, where they can do certain things intravenously. But what they'll do is they will take a tube and they will stick it up your nose, go through your sinuses, down your throat, and into your stomach. And then they pump you full of nutritious goo, basically. And if you're lucky, they will put the tube down your throat and the tube in your nose and the tube in other places to help you get rid of all of that stuff while you're asleep. I was very fortunate to have that happen that way every time. However, I have had all of those tubes pulled out of me at one point or another while I was awake. And let's just say it wasn't pleasant. But what I want to talk to you about today is like I said earlier and in previous videos, my first coma was 3.5 weeks long, and because they had the tube in my mouth going down my throat, my mouth was open for 3.5 weeks. I was physically incapable of closing my mouth, partially because I was unconscious, and partially because there was a big tube in my mouth that kept me from closing it. So when they finally brought me out of the coma and I started to kind of regain some of my sanity, the only thing I could fixate on is how dry my mouth was. They brought me out of the coma, but they still had me intubated, and that's just by itself is fairly uncomfortable. But when your mouth has been open and you haven't been able to really swallow or even drink anything for 3.5 weeks, you can't even imagine how dry and gross the inside of your mouth will feel. Also, because I was intubated, I couldn't really talk. It's kind of like that scene in Fight Club.
With a gun barrel between your teeth, you speak only in vowels.
When you've got a tube in your mouth, you only speak in syllables. Add a case of ICU delirium to that, and your communication just gets shot to hell. I'd been out for so long and I was so weak that even holding a pencil and trying to write something wasn't going to happen. They tried the blinking thing where they brought in a card and it was one blink for A and 2 blinks for B. Not on this page was another series of blinks, take me to the other page, whatever. And even that was frustrating. I couldn't even begin to explain how much I just wanted a drink of water. The problem was I still had the tube in my mouth. They weren't sure what my capacity was for swallowing. It was just a big cluster, and they just kept telling me that I couldn't have anything to drink once I was able to communicate to them that I was really, really thirsty. So this went on for a while. Honestly, I don't remember how long. There's still a lot of that initial phase that I'm pretty fuzzy on. But just imagine not having anything to drink for 3 weeks, then not being able to communicate that all you want is something to drink. And then once you get the point across, them just saying, no, you can't yet. So I believe it was the nurses had an idea. Apparently this is a fairly common idea. It just took them a while to get there, apparently. That there's something that they can do in lieu of water that will help get the dryness out of your mouth, get the gross taste out of your mouth, besides just brushing, which again, hard to spit if you can't really close your mouth and if you got tubes. Brushing literally wasn't much of an option there either. They could do a superficial thing, but nothing real thorough. So it was at that point where I was introduced to this neat stuff called Biotene Oral Balance Gel. Now this is not sponsored. I said that in one of my previous videos as well. But I was introduced to Biotene. Didn't know what it was, hadn't heard of it, but they said, hey, give this a try, it may help. They were helpful. They put some of this on like a toothbrush or something, if I remember right, and they put it in my mouth, and the amount of relief I felt immediately was just beyond compare to anything I'd ever experienced before in my life. It was soothing, it was refreshing, it took the nasty taste out of my mouth, it kept me from having the dry mouth. It was just a miraculous thing. The problem was, again, I was still a bit delusional, and me being the funny guy I am, especially when I am delusional, I bit down on the brush and wouldn't let him have it back. My wife Rachel was there, and they kept saying, open your mouth, open your mouth, open your mouth, and I wouldn't do it. Finally, with the brush still in my mouth, I went, but not giving them the brush back. So my wife, knowing what a smart ass I can be, said, open your teeth. And this part I don't necessarily remember, but she has reminded me of this part of it recently. Apparently I glared at her, which is something I would probably do, and I just gave her a death stare and then opened my teeth rather, because she had outsmarted me. And that was really unfortunate because, like I said, having the Biotene was just the best thing ever. And eventually it just got to the point where I could, because again, I'd been intubated for three and a half weeks. My voice was actually worse than it is now. In fact, just real quick, I'll cut over to just some video that I took, I believe around May. It was my first official hospital update. And you can hear how bad my voice was.
Hey guys, thought I'd try something different today. I know we've been doing a lot of the just the status updates, but wanted to try this. I apologize for the voice. That's just how it is right now.
It got to the point after a while that I could kind of communicate, where I could just kind of open my mouth a little bit and point, or give it like a little brushing motion, and the people in the room, whether it was my wife or a nurse or whoever, knew that I needed something in my mouth like Biotene. And eventually that worked out pretty well. It wasn't a perfect solution by any means, but it was definitely helpful. So one of my favorite things to drink, even before that, after that, whatever, one of my favorite things to drink is ice water. The colder the better, the more ice the better. I'm one of those people, I chew on ice. Like when I'm at dialysis, the first thing I do is I go in, I set my stuff down, I weigh myself, and then I get a little styrofoam cup full of crushed ice. The best thing you're going to get outside of dialysis ice is Sonic Drive-In ice. If you can get a bag of that and keep it on hand, you'll thank me. But after one of my comas, it had to put a chest tube in me because one of my lungs had collapsed. So they had to stick a chest tube in me to basically to drain everything, open my lungs back up, and basically keep me breathing and alive. The problem that I ran into, though, was while that was still healing, anytime, and it only happened twice, anytime I had a glass or even a drink of ice water, something super cold like that, it would just make me hurt so badly. Where they had where they put the chest tube in, where they had cut me open in a couple of other places, like it just cold interacting with everything was just awful. It made me sick for like a full 24 hours, just like throwing my guts up, and just not a pleasant experience. But overall, my point is this: if you're in a coma, or if you're in a coma, you're not watching this. If you've just come out of a coma recently, if you know somebody who's in a coma or somebody who's just come out of a coma, there's a real good chance that they just want a drink of water or some crushed ice or even a good substitute like Biotene. So again, not sponsored, but just a PSA letting you know that if you know somebody coming out of a coma, get them something to drink. Okay guys, I know this one was a little bit different, a little weird. You probably noticed the new decorations behind me. I'm still, my desk is over here, but I just kind of set up, my wife and I set this up the other day behind me. There's actually a shelf up above as well with more nerd stuff on there. And if you followed me on Instagram, you would know what's going on there. So definitely go follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. I've got a Facebook page as well. You can find all the links to that stuff down below in the description section. But I know this was a little different, and if you enjoyed it, if you enjoyed this style, this kind of content, this PSA stuff, do me a favor, hit the like button, share this with somebody who might find it entertaining or if nothing else helpful. If you're interested in this kind of content moving forward, also don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'd be grateful for that. So like I said, thumbs up, subscribe, share it on your favorite social medias, and tell me down below what other kinds of stuff you'd like me to talk about. If you've got questions or comments or any of that stuff, love to start a conversation with you down in the comment section below. If you're one of those people who doesn't leave comments, then do me a favor, like I said, hit me up on Twitter, very social there, and would love to get a conversation started. So again, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. I always appreciate your support, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.